Every country is different, and every country's laws are different. Sometimes these laws border on the seriously ridiculous, and other times they point to important cultural values that might be different from your own. When you're traveling, you certainly don't want to be caught unaware of it. Who wants to get into trouble and spoil all the fun of that very amazing trip? Globally, laws range from the weird and wonderful to the downright peculiar. Singapore banned chewing gum. Singapore's ban on the sale of chewing gum is possibly the most internationally well-known law in the world. According to Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore's first prime minister, he was first approached about a chewing gum ban in the early 1980s by the Ministers of National Development. At the time, some initial controls were put in place, including a ban on television advertisements that promoted the sale or consumption of chewing gum. For years, the Housing Development Board had reportedly been spending $750,000 annually to tidy up gum that had been disposed of on sidewalks, in keyholes, around housing estates, and even on the seats of public transportation. Initially, Lee Kuan Yew had been opposed to a complete ban, agreeing with opponents that it was too drastic a measure that could be more easily fixed through education and levying fines against repeat offenders. This all changed in 1987 with the launch of the mass rapid transit system. The cost of the system had totaled $5 billion, and politicians were very excited about how it would modernize, and even revolutionize, the city-state. So when people started sticking chewing gum on the train door sensors, causing the doors to malfunction and resulting in long disruptions of train services, chewing gum had officially worn out its welcome on the island. In 1992, the ban was introduced by the president, Goh Chok Tong, and there were strong opinions for and against the ban. Proponents of the ban were pleased to see an end to the unsightly nuisance, especially those whose jobs involve scraping gum off various surfaces. Opponents, on the other hand, felt that the sudden ban was too harsh and restrictive on people's individual freedoms. Canadian radio stations must play Canadian artists. The Canadians are a patriotic bunch, so much so that all Canadian radio stations are required, by law, to play Canadian artists on the airwaves at least 35% of the time, especially during the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. This means that in an hour of radio during the workweek, you'll hear more than 20 minutes of artists like Nickelback, Alanis Morissette, Celine Dion, Michael Bublé, and Justin Bieber, all of whom are proud Canucks. It's illegal to run out of gas on the German autobahn, notorious for having dynamic speed limits that give drivers a chance to travel more than 100 miles per hour. Car enthusiasts and speed demons love trips along the German autobahn. But if you run out of gas, you could face a big fine. And don't even think of walking to a gas station. You'll get another fine for that. Why? Germans believe you have the power to keep your car properly gassed up. So if you run out of gas, it's your own fault. Walking along the highway isn't safe, as is having your vehicle stalled on or on the side of the road. Keep your eyes on your gas gauge and fill her up when you get low. It's illegal to feed pigeons in Venice, Italy, with thousands of pigeons descending upon St. Mark's Square in Venice, lured by the tourists readily handing out food in exchange for Instagram-worthy photos. Venice lawmakers officially made it illegal to feed the pesky fowl in 2008. If you're caught feeding the pigeons, you could face fines of up to EUR 700. Better to get the picture-perfect shot of Venice's beautiful bridges instead. The sale and distribution of grain to feed the birds is banned, ending a tradition that attracted pigeons and their droppings to the most picturesque part of the lagoon city. Authorities say pigeons are eating away at the city's marble statues and buildings by pecking at small gaps in the facades to reach for scraps of food that were blown inside. Cleaning up monuments and repairing the damage caused by pigeons cost each Venetian taxpayer €275 a year. It's illegal to wear high heels to the Acropolis. Fancy high heels at Greece's ancient sites. This is not a good idea for several reasons. In fact, it is forbidden since 2009. When packing for a trip to Greece, make sure you have the right shoes. The country banned high heels at the Acropolis in 2009, so no stilettos at the Parthenon. Not sure why anyone would want to make a trek around the ruins and dirt in heels. Surely it's tough to walk and will damage the shoes, but the Greeks put this ban in place to protect its ruins from damage caused by the sharp shoes. The ruins are nearly 2,500 years old, so be respectful and wear some soft-soled shoes when you visit. Don't wear your Winnie the Pooh t-shirt in Poland. Winnie the Pooh has been banned from a Polish playground because of his dubious sexuality and inappropriate dress. The much-loved animated bear was suggested at a local council meeting to decide which famous character should become the face of the play area in the small town of Tustin. The cuddly little bear, all stuffed with fluff, also gasped, does not wear pants. Because of this, Poland issued a ban on Winnie the Pooh around playgrounds and schools, finding the mini character a bit too risque for the likes of impressionable children. Best to leave your bear attire at home if visiting this Eastern European country, just to be safe. Men must wear Speedos on French beaches. Did you think the French just really like their Speedos? Actually, it's French law that men do not wear loose-fitting swim trunks on beaches, swimming pools, and other public places where a swimsuit is required attire. The law was for safety, but rather that men wouldn't dare walk around town in a Speedo. So if he wears a Speedo in the water, it surely would be cleaner than something he may have been wearing all day long. This need to avoid clothing that could have been worn throughout the day also extends to t-shirts. You'll need to lose those as fast as your surfer shorts. It is illegal to wear a suit of armor in British Parliament. We know you've been dying to don your suit of armor for a visit to Parliament during your next trip to London. Still, there is this ancient law dating back to 1313 that prohibits it. The Brits could revoke the law, but as armor really isn't as fashionable as it was in the Middle Ages, why should they bother? It's illegal to ride a cow while drunk in Scotland. Before you get any crazy ideas and have too much Scottish whiskey, you should know you could get a ticket for drunk cow riding. Technically, the full 1872 law mandates people not be drunk when in charge of a cow, horse, carriage, or steam engine. In case you are wondering, the same law states you cannot have a loaded firearm on you while drunk. We have to admit, that's a pretty good rule. It's illegal to wear camouflage in much of the Caribbean. People here in the United States take a lot of their freedoms for granted. If the citizens of this country were to stop and compare their freedoms to those of other people in countries around the world, they would realize just how blessed and fortunate they are. Take for example the fact that we all can wear whatever we want, whenever we want here in the U.S., just so long as it is not totally obscene. In Times Square in New York City, for example, we have seen people dressed like the Statue of Liberty, snake charmers, superheroes, Mickey Mouse, police officers, Donald Trump, Donald Duck. The list goes on and on. With all that freedom, who knew that it is against the law in many Caribbean countries for a civilian to wear camouflage? I certainly did. I just stumbled across the fact about a week ago. In countries such as Antigua, Dominica, Grenada, Jamaica, Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it is against the law for civilians to wear camouflage clothing or accessorize with anything that has a camouflage print. Camouflage is considered to be strictly for military or law enforcement uniform, so the print cannot be worn in public by anyone who is not in active military or law enforcement status. No selfies with Buddha in Sri Lanka. When you take a selfie with Buddha, you are turning your back on him. This sign of disrespect is punishable by imprisonment in Sri Lanka. It is also considered disrespectful to point your finger at Buddha, and sometimes there are bans on taking photos with the statues. Although not illegal to have tattoos of Buddha, a British woman was jailed for 3 days in 2014 for inappropriate tattoos of the man 70% of Sri Lankans feel is a prophet and avatar of the god Vishnu. Be polite and cover tattoos, respect no photograph signs, and don't turn your back on him. Registering as married at a hotel makes it so in North Carolina. Let's say a man and a woman walk into a hotel in North Carolina, request to share a room, and claim they are married. By common law marriage rules in the state, that man and woman would legally be married. As the couple outwardly present themselves as husband and wife to the public, they are deemed a common law marriage that is honored and valid in North Carolina. Should you find yourself in need of a hotel room for the night, you may want to fess up if you aren't a married couple. It's illegal to fly a kite in Victoria, Australia. Imagine a lovely spring day. There's a gentle breeze and you decide to head down to your local park to fly a kite. You're running through the park, kite in hand. Suddenly, you hear someone yell out, "Hey, that kite's annoying me." You decide to pay it no mind. After all, you're not doing anything illegal, right? Well, if you live in one particular Australian state, you could be breaking the law. That state happens to be Victoria. Under Section 4 of the Summary Offences Act 1966, any person who flies a kite or plays a game in a public place to the annoyance of any person will be guilty of an offense. A public place is defined extensively under Section 3 of the Summary Offences Act. Public places include parks, churches, railway stations, boats, schools, markets, and licensed premises that serve alcohol, to name a few. The legislation is titled Offenses Relating to the Good Order of Towns, etc., which explains the purpose of the section. The maximum penalty for flying a kite to the annoyance of any person is 5 penalty units. One penalty unit is currently $165.22. This means that the maximum fine for this offense would be $826.10. This value is steep enough to act as a deterrent and make people think twice about breaking this law. Australians aren't the only ones who are apparently opposed to flying a kite. Lawmakers in 1907 Buenos Aires took it a step further by completely stripping the Argentinian capital of the simple joy of flying kites. In 1989, the law was partially revoked to make it legal to fly kites in squares and parks. But don't even think about trying to enjoy this childhood pastime anywhere else. Which of these weird laws do you think is the most nonsense? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.